Okay, so here it is. I'm about to spill the beans. We do not all have the same 24 hours. Now, I know that's a bit controversial because despite all the memes and all the little cute quotes and sayings that you'll see dotted around the place, we don't all have the same 24 hours. I know, according to that thing on the wall, we do, but it's not true. It's a lie, and I'm gonna tell you and show you and dispel this myth once and for all. So you're here to talk about time? This is what we're going to be doing today. So hi, I'm Kylie Ansett. I am the Alignment Whisperer, and I guide seekers of alignment to connect with their head, heart, and hand so that the absolute joy and abundance that's in their heart aligns with the intention that's in their head, and so they can go out into the world and act with their hands. It's about aligning head, heart, and hand, because when those three are in alignment, we can move mountains. We can move mountains. It's pretty amazing. So I'm coming to you from Sydney, beautiful Sydney, Australia, and this is your daily dose of alignment. So we're talking time. We are talking time today because it seems to be a topic that we cannot avoid. And I don't know, it does seem a little bit, now you know I'm a conspiracy theorist, don't you? If you don't, you do now. It does seem a little bit like there's some design to make sure that time is very important to us all. And when I say time, I mean the passing of time. Not this moment, I mean the other moments, the moments that were and the moments that are coming. There seems to be some design. There's like every house has to have a clock on the wall. In fact, every wall has to have a clock on it. Every wrist has to have a watch on it. And when those started going out of favor, every person had to have a phone that had a clock on it. Like time is just so in our face, just from that aspect. But let me explain a bit more what I'm saying, because I do sound a little bit like I'm raving about it, and maybe I am, but this is like a huge aha for me. And I think when you get this and you realize not only do you not have to be controlled by time, but get this, you get to control time. Now, that's a big statement, and most people will not believe it or think it's possible, because from the moment we are born, and the time we are born is like stamped on our birth certificate, and every year that goes past, we are kind of forced to celebrate the passing of whatever, like the earth circling the sun or something, whatever it is that happens every year. And like from the moment we're born, time is we are subjected to it. It is put upon us. Now, just think if nobody had kind of invented clocks or birthdays or things like that. Like, there would still be time, but we would relate to it in a very different way. Am I right? Am I right? Am I like, can you even conceive of that? Like, it's almost impossible to even imagine, right? Now, hear me out, because I know this is kind of a little bit controversial and it may not make sense, but hear me out, because I think we are doing ourselves not just a small disservice, but a massive disservice by this addiction to this worship of time, this concept that time is something outside there and it dictates to us. That, I think, robs us of our life. It actually does. Now, I opened this little video by saying that that we don't all have the same 24 hours. And what I mean by that is time is actually completely subjective. Now, what I mean by that is it is experienced differently by different people, and we've all experienced it differently ourselves. Like, we all know how time takes forever when you're doing something you hate, and when you're doing something you love, it just feels right. So we know it is subjective. Now, that clock on the wall, isn't it weird how that makes the light go different when I move my hand? Sorry, distraction. That clock on the wall, that thing on your wrist, that phone in your pocket, in your handbag, whatever, begs to differ. It begs to say that time is completely objective. It is something that's happening outside of us, and it ticks away this fast. It ticks away like as fast as your heart beats, pretty much. And it doesn't change. And there are Swiss timepieces that will tell you that this is the rate, and it's nothing more and nothing less, and that's it, right? So we are told that time is completely objective. It doesn't have, it is an unchangeable, undeniable fact of life. But I'm here to completely fly in the face of that. I'm here to challenge that notion in your mind, okay? I've challenged it in my own mind, and I'll tell you what it did is it just exploded the possibilities of how we can live in any moment. It was a complete and utter revelation of what the possibilities are. And we don't do this, you see. Usually we just follow along as we've been told to do, and we think time is something that happens to us. Now, here's a great example. So right now in Australia and all over the world, no doubt, the Christmas trees are starting to go up. Now and you also get those people who go, oh, it's 50 days to Christmas or whatever, and they kind of do it in because the reaction, you can almost guarantee the reaction is like people freaking out. Like, why? For me, I don't get that, but then I don't have giant family Christmases where I have to plan for a month beforehand and everything. And Christmas is a really big deal here in Australia, as opposed to, I think, in the United States, I think maybe Thanksgiving. We don't do Thanksgiving, so that celebration that the US and some of North America has, we do that all on December 25th. So it's just like this huge marking of the calendar, and it's really, and the same happens around birthdays, okay? And I'm sure you can relate to this too. Every year we feel that there's a sense of, like, in the beginning when you're 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old, like there's a big celebration because like you're getting towards something, and then you get to a certain age and you realize you're not getting towards anything. Now you're getting further away from something, or you're getting towards something else, which is, the end of your life. And so there's less and less celebration and more kind of trepidation. But the point is that why are we using these arbitrary things to mark time? Why? Because when you do that, you actually shut down your experience of life. Now, I'm going to try and explain, because this is like a huge topic, and I'm kind of riffing off my own understandings of this here, because it is really, really powerful. But okay, if time is your enemy, if you are always racing against the clock, if someone says, it's Christmas in 37 days or whatever they're saying, or you see the Christmas trees going up, or there's that countdown to a certain significant event and it fills you with dread, then this is really important for you to hear, because what it is doing, all of those things are doing, is robbing you of now. Because sure, there will be a day called Christmas in 37 days, or it's a lot more than that, isn't it? It's like 60. I honestly don't mark it, so I have no idea. But there is a day coming up like that, but that's not today. And there is an appointment this afternoon, but that's not now. And there is seconds that are supposedly ticking by according to some arbitrary clock, but that is also has nothing to do with who I am and where I am and how I experience things. Hello, how are you, Kim? Nice to see you. It's totally arbitrary, and when we allow these things to dictate to us, we are robbing ourselves of the only time that we ever have, which is right now. Now, I know that's kind of like another meme, and it's another pat little saying that, you know, there's no future, there's no past, there's only now. But how many of us actually live with that? How many of us actually understand and experience that and are able to say that we're fully living in this second and then this second and then this second? Even using the word second isn't good, because that's a measurement of time. Now has no measurement of time. There is no time around now. Now, the other thing that completely robs us of our life is this notion of being busy. And for so many of us, being busy equals being worthy. We have been brought up with some kind of work ethic or some kind of strange understanding around what busyness is. And what worthiness is, and that if we're busy, then we are worthy. Now, just like clocks on the wall, just like what I was saying earlier about the clocks and about the watches and about always having to mark time and be aware of its passing and of its coming, busyness is exactly the same. Busyness actually robs us even more of our presence, of the moments that we are in now, because busyness takes you away from being present in the moment. It has to. You cannot feel busy if you are being present in any given moment. It's impossible, because you cannot. The two are mutually exclusive. And of course, it's very easy to feel busy, and it's very hard to it's not hard, but it's unusual for most of us. It's an experience that's a little bit unusual to be present in a moment and not have to be thinking about what we have just done or what we are going to do. And the second we think of that, we're not in the moment anymore. So giving ourselves fully to whatever moment we're in is, you will not feel busy, because, okay, there might be 50,000 more things to do, but you're not thinking about them. You're just thinking about right now. And of course, meditation is a means of getting to this, because the whole point of meditation is to be 100% present in that moment. And it's why so many of us, you know, struggle with meditation. Absolutely, I will relate to that. But it just because it's a challenge, just because everything that we do, it takes us away from that, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't continue to practice it and to desire to get better at it, because what it will do is it will put you in control of time. Now, that's a big claim, but once you throw away the clocks and throw away the watches and throw away the timepieces, I'm like, if I could get the time factor off the front of my phone screen, I would do that in a heartbeat. Like, I probably wouldn't actually, because it is useful, but I would love to have the choice of doing that. Do we have the choice of doing that? Why do we have to have the time right in front of us? And you know, it's so funny when people say, you know, and I used to do it too, 11:11 on the phone, or 3:33, or 6:66, that's not a time, 6:06, you know, whatever it is. The thing is that what we're actually doing is we're not getting, okay, this is how I say it, we're not getting angel numbers or fairy numbers or whatever they want to call it. What we're doing is we're just looking at the fucking clock too much. We're just looking at it too much, because if you look at it once a day, if you literally only ever looked at it one time a day and that was the numbers that came up, okay. But if you look at it 70 million times a day, well, yeah, you're going to see a lot of 333s and 444s and 555s. You're just gonna. So stop looking at the clock, and every time you look at the clock, it takes you out of now, and every time it takes you out of now, the time is controlling you instead of you controlling time. Now, we live in a world of appointments and things have to happen at a certain time. I get it. This is what I'm trying to do to be more in control. And I am actually just starting to play with this. So whether it works or not, I don't know. I will report back to you. But I'd be interested to hear, and I would love you to also try it out. Now, a lot of the time when we are looking, checking our watches or our phones more often these days, or clocks and so on, it's because we know certain things have to happen. I have to pick up the kids at this time, or I have to get to work, I have to catch the bus, blah, blah, blah. Like there are certain things that we have to fit in around. Rather than the 10 minutes leading up to that event, let alone the hour, half an hour, beforehand leading up to that event, we're looking at the clock 55 times, which I bet you that we do, probably more like 3,000 times. Rather than that, make it some kind of like a vow, a vow not to look at the clock, not to look at the time, and set yourself an alarm instead. And the alarm gives you X amount of minutes, like maybe it gives you 10 minutes or whatever leeway you need. But that way you don't, and I do this when I do appointments with when I do my one-on-one coaching, because with my one-on-one coaching, I don't like to have a time limit. I charge by the month, not by the hour. And so I don't say, right, we got an hour or we got 20 minutes or whatever. We have all the time in the world. And that is a guarantee. Now, of course, within that, there are certain parameters. And usually the parameters are set by my client, not by me. So they might say, well, I do have this thing I have to go to in 2 hours or whatever. So there, and obviously there's only so long we can talk on the phone before our ears start kind of falling off. But because a lot of the time we're not talking, we're actually doing processes. That's a bit different too. But anyway, I don't like to be like looking at the clock and setting a time to it. So what I do is I set a timer that gives me maybe 15 minutes leeway between what the decided, okay, like this is when I have to leave, or however long it is. So I set that. Then I don't have to look at the clock again. Then when that alarm goes, I know, okay, so we kind of got a bit of time to wind up. I might even do it half an hour before. It sort of depends on the time frame. But it allows me to not have to rely on time as controlling me. I'm controlling time now. I am in charge of what happens when and how this unfolds and the pace in which it unfolds. And it is a beautiful thing. It is a freeing thing. It truly frees us up to be in the moment, every moment. Now, I would suggest that we do this around all the things. It means that you might have, 50 million alarms happening, but that's okay. Like just make it a really pretty sound, something that you want to hear. And obviously, I guess I'm talking about on a mobile phone doing this, because if you set a little alarm clock, well, you could do that too. But anyway, so I'm going to be trying this, and I encourage you to as well. Not knowing that I have to keep an eye on the clock to get me to this or that thing, but just knowing that I actually have all the time in the world, and a little alarm's going to go off to let me know when a certain appointment's coming up. Now, really my message to you is to become aware of how time is controlling you, if it is. And I think for most of us, to a certain degree, it does. So become aware of it, first of all. And second of all, know that that is a choice, and that there are ways that you can creatively circumnavigate this and change it, transform it, flip it on its head, make it so that you now control time, or you disregard time so much that it has no bearing on your life, because you live in the now at all times. Now, that's a great aspiration to have. So let's all have that aspiration. It's something to work towards. It's not necessarily something that we will ever achieve. but we will get closer and closer to it if we are, number one, are aware of it, and number two, have that desire to move towards it. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with this, and I hope you do too, because I think that when we throw busy out the window, when we are able to appreciate something like Christmas or a birthday for the moment in time that it gives us, which, say, for Christmas might be a celebration with family. For a birthday, it may be people giving you acknowledgement because, you know, you've managed to not die for another 365 days, or whatever. We see it just as that, and as that moment only, and not as something to dread and take us out of this moment. That's not Christmas, that's not my birthday, that's not when I have to rush off to an appointment. Now, I have managed to expand time in my life, and I've done it by banishing the word busy. I did that a long time ago. I am never busy, never. And my diary is pretty packed, but I am never busy. I have so much space because, have you ever meditated, and when you have the ability to expand that moment between the inhalation and the exhalation, that there's a time stands still, right, type of thing. There's an experience of like, oh, that took longer than it should have. Now, I can do that for moments in my life, and just by reveling in that moment, simply by reveling in that, in every or any moment. I mean, I'm far from being able to do it in every moment, but I can do it in some. And by reveling in that moment and just like milking it and just enjoying the juiciness of it as much as possible, by doing that, it expands time. Just like in the opposite way. Here's the thing. Now, you know, the old saying goes, and I mentioned this in the beginning. It's not really a saying, but the way they say it is, you know, when you're doing something you love, time goes by in a flash, and when you're doing something you don't like, it, you know, takes forever. It's the opposite of that. It's like when you're doing something you love, by being present, totally present in the moment, you expand that time. You just elongate it. 1 second just goes on and 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 on, because there is only ever 1 second. That's all there ever is. And so it just goes on and on and on. And that is, you know, if you ever have experienced where you're doing something that you really enjoy and you feel like it's all over in a flash. Let's say you go on holidays, right? And you'll, how many times when you do go, let's say you have an annual trip and you go to Hawaii or somewhere that's fabulous, and you spend a lot of the time stressing about getting there. You spend a certain amount of time stressing about being there, and then you spend a lot of the time stressing about how soon it's going to be over and how you wish it happened more often. Well, you're just robbing yourself of pretty much the entire beautiful experience, and that's why it goes by in a flash, because there were probably only 1 or 2 seconds when you were really fully present in that holiday, in that trip, in that vacation, right? So I find that really amusing, and I've been totally guilty of doing it myself, 100%. So I know what it feels like. I know what it's like. Okay, so that's my rant about time, and all I can say is throw away your clock, throw away all of your clocks, see if you can get rid of the time on the front of your phone. You can't on an iPhone, as far as I know. I bet on an Android you could, because my son's always telling me they're much more customizable than an iPhone, but you can't. I'm pretty sure you can't on an iPhone remove the clock on feature. And see if you can, and try the alarm thing for helping you to survive in a world where there are appointments and other people find time important. But see how it goes. See what happens for you. So I hope that was at least slightly interesting for you. And thank you so much for joining me in the Alignment Sandbox. It's been fun. It's been real. And don't forget the power. The power is within you. Bye.